This
Rock and roll, Umar. BoxNation TV. I'm Gareth A Davies, the Gad, as some people horribly call me, the Gad. Have you got any questions for me? So I'm going to intro myself today. I'm telling you to get into a net at Lord's so I can throw some big ones at you. Boom, with your mate James. And he says you need a chest protector because you can't fend off very well. Um, and it's about time you did a bit of exercise after all those shisha pipes with me in Riad. Good morning.
someone's had their Weetabix. God,
I know I've just been swimming and just had a bit of food and a couple of coffees. Yeah.
yeah, I can tell,
Good morning.
Gareth. I
How
can
are you?
tell. I'm all good, thank you. I'm all good. I don't need to ask how you are. Everyone can see that for themselves. Let's talk about Saturday night. Main event was Adam Azim as impressive as everyone's saying.
I think so because he did everything right. I've given the performance a 9 out of 10. He was impressive all week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I saw him. He was very impressive. He's growing up. He's only 22. He carried himself very well. He grows with the hour. I had a quick chat to Shane McGuigan about him, and he really is progressing in lots of different ways, holistically, if you like, or organically. I thought the control of distance, his composure, his patience, the way he painstakingly picked his shots. He barely put a foot wrong. He wasn't caught very much. Ohara Davies brings a real amount of danger. Yes, I know he's at the end of his career. There was a growing up process, a rite of passage to go through because he looked up to Ohara Davies for so long in the Peacock Gym where we were on Thursday. So all in all, a very fine performance. Where he goes now, I'm not sure.
Well, Eddie was over in has been over in Riyadh for the snooker, and
He's a tennis fan now, isn't he?
who Eddie?
Hmm.
And he was with His Excellency, who hinted at the fact that we could see the fight with Dalton Smith some point next year, early next year, with Adam Azim. Would that be the correct move for Adam to fight Dalton next?
Yeah, if they both want it, if they're being paid well enough for it, but someone's trajectory is going to change. I'd see Adam's got the advantages early in the fight, but I think Dalton Smith down the stretch might be a very dangerous fighter for him. Dalton's very strong physically, I think, and I think that's what most opponents, Jose Zepeda and others, have found. Dalton came of age against Jose Zepeda, and I think he's slightly ahead in the pecking order. Um, but that 10 stone division is an amazing division globally. And if they make a name for themselves against each other, Liam Paro, Devin Haney, Teo Lopez, Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor fencing another dig at one of them if he can still make 140. My word, it's an amazing division.
Matthias is there, Sabril Matthias as well.
Sabril Matias. Why are you thinking that that might be the next step for either of them?
Maybe for Dalton Smith, yeah.
Mm, mm. I, is this a stage rather like Carl Froch and George Groves all those years ago? I think they were slightly more advanced as boxers. I think Dalton Smith and Adam Azim are, or Adam Azim is just at the end of being prospect. Dalton is slightly more than a prospect now.
You don't want it to turn into a Khan Brook where they do it right at the end, do
Oh
you?
God, no! That. Hang on, these guys. That's 9 years away. They were 35, Amir and Kel, when they fought. They'd been they'd gone through. Khan had fought, well, certainly pound for pound in Canelo, Crawford. Um, Cal Brook had fought pound for pound in Golovkin and Crawford. Then we're not going to wait that long. There's no way. The sport's different now. It's very different. They're not going to go and do 6 fights in America. Those two. Might have a couple in Riyadh season. They might make a name for themselves. They might sell out Sheffield a few times. Adam might sell out some stadiums in the UK, but I don't think we're going to see those guys around in 10 years' time. I think they'll be done.
Okay.
But I agree with you. The principle is correct.
Yeah. Anthony Yarde, thoughts?
knocked Ralfs Vilcans down in the first second of the fight with a long straight right hand. Shocked himself that Vilcans was down so early, settled back and thought, I haven't got a right to mooch around in his head, but this is what I'm thinking. Um, he settled back and thought, I want a few rounds here. I don't want to just knock him out in round one. Settled in, got too relaxed, allowed Vilcans into the fight. Vilcans showed his mettle, 17-1 from 90% of his fights have been in Riga, Latvia. He came to prove something against a guy who's world level. And he couldn't get him out of there in the end. And he settled into a rhythm that didn't suit him. And in the end, it didn't look like a great performance.
Would you say
He
you
won
like?
easily. He won easily, but it was 6 rounds to 4 for me, not 8 rounds to 2.
Okay, all right.
What did you make of it then?
But I thought it was a laboured performance, not his usual standards from Yarde.
Mm, mm. It wasn't Anthony Yarde the destroyer, but I think he wanted the rounds, and I think he got. He even said, I've seen him speaking to Vilcans afterwards, where he said, I was thrown by that because I put you down early and then you came back. I think he tried to get him out of there, but there's no harm done in that performance other than the optics that most people will see Joshua Buatsi as a big favourite in that fight.
Does that happen next, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's got to. Riad season deal with Boxer and Ben Shalom, whether that's sponsorship or Riad season's name on the cards, that's all good, but it means that there's an involvement from the side of the Saudi Arabians and outside Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol, whose rematch hasn't officially been announced. I think Buatsi against Yarde is the biggest fight in the light heavyweight division. It's one of the big fights in British boxing that we've waited for at least 30 months, Umar.
Okay. Um, Anything else you want to speak about on the card before we move on?
Um, Pleased with the progress of Fran Hennessy. I think she was up against someone very physically tough. I'm glad to see Shannon Courtney back, even though she lost. I think boxing's good for her. I love her honesty about what she's gone through. Who else was on? I didn't really agree with the Edmondson victory. I thought Dan Aziz just pipped it, but it was a hard fight to score because of the completely contrasting styles. But well done, Edmondson. I thought he might win on points. Talked about it being a difficult fight for Dan Aziz stylistically. He's very tall, Edmondson, very long, switches, does loads of unorthodox things. Very hard to beat.
Okay. Right. Outside of that card, the main news story of the weekend really was Ben Shalom, who declared that he wanted to investigate the gloves that Fabio Wardley was winning in his stoppage win over Frazer Clarke in Riad a couple of weekends ago. He has come out and further said, look, I don't believe Frank Warren or Fabio Wardley did anything untoward or wrong. It was simply about the gloves. But obviously, Frank didn't take to it very well. What did you think about those comments from Ben?
Well, journalistically, I was over it all week. I did speak to him on Friday to clear it up in an interview on the Fight Night Daily podcast for Talk Sport, in which he said, I wasn't actually trying to accuse anyone of anything, but I think inadvertently the way he presented it made people feel that he's making accusations about the gloves. And his argumentation is that I was just passing on information, but I think it was ill-advised in the way that he did it publicly to do that. It made me go and check with the Boxing Board of Control. I spoke to Robert Smith, who was in Australia. I think Frank was perfectly within his rights to be incensed about it. I think it was very important that Ben Shalom put the record straight last week as soon as possible. And that's what I asked him to do on TalkSport on Friday, because loaded gloves or accusations of tampering with gloves or wraps are a heinous thing in boxing, because they are the weapon. So, if the weapon's been augmented or been touched, in a manner that will give someone an advantage or make their hands more dangerous and their gloves more dangerous, then obviously it's a very serious issue. And I think that's the territory he took it into. If the gloves are being investigated, well, that's an issue for the Boxing Board of Control and what manufacturers they use. I believe a writ might have been issued, or certainly a letter from those glove manufacturers to Ben and to Boxer and to Ben Shalom and Boxer. That's my understanding behind the scenes. All the gloves that you can use are verified on the Boxing Board of Control website, the manufacturers that have an agreement. The rules meeting went ahead on the Friday night. The gloves were selected. I spoke to Robert Smith about it. He was in Australia, as I say. Got hold of him late at night in Australia on Friday morning here. And he said Ben wasn't there at the gloves meeting, but his representative was. The gloves were signed off. They were very happy about them. So it goes no further. It's done. It was done like all practice is always done, as you know, and a lot of people do know, but some people who watch our videos or watch your channel may not know that the gloves are selected with all the teams there. The fighters try them on. They're signed off by the commission. They're put in a bag. There's a spare pair. They're all agreed on. They're used the next day because it's normally on a Friday night after the weigh-ins. And this happens for everyone. The commissions are all there. A representative from the promoters there. The boxers are there, obviously trying on the gloves. On a Saturday night in the dressing room, the gloves can be watched and the wraps can be watched done by a representative from the other team. The commissioner there and the team who are going ahead to box are there as well. So it's all done in plain sight. So when there's an accusation that something is unwarranted or tampered with or they're unhappy with, they were signed off officially by the Boxing Board of Control. And that's a close and shut case, by the way. Sometimes when there is an issue about gloves and they change them, but there was no issue on the Friday night when they were put together. So as Ben Shalom said, I was just passing on concerns. Well, it doesn't matter. You're making an issue of the gloves. If there is a concern about those gloves, that's an external investigation that needs to be presented to the Boxing Board of Control if you actually have something like that. But right now, what went ahead was absolutely 100% within the rules. Does that clarify it?
Yeah, and I think if he does have a genuine concern, should have probably now the event's passed anyways. He should have just done it privately, I'm guessing, right, Gareth?
No, that's what I'm suggesting, that
Yeah.
don't make a news story of it because people are going to assume you are complaining about there's something wrong with the gloves. There's nothing wrong with the gloves. They were the gloves selected by both teams, agreed by the Boxing Board of Control, agreed by the commission. There was no issue with them. So the reason why it arose is because Frazer was so hurt by the punch. I mean, you and I were with him in the airport before we left Riyadh, and because we were all very concerned about him. But it doesn't necessarily mean that there was anything wrong with it. Well, it doesn't mean there was anything wrong with the gloves. It's more the fact he was punched really hard by Fabio Wardley, I think Ben had to be careful about taking away something from Fabio's victory.
Well, that's what's been followed on. So Fabio's manager, I spoke to him, Michael Offo, and obviously Fabio's promoter, Frank, at their show, Frank's show on Friday night at your call, and both of them made it clear that there could be legal ramifications.
Yeah, well, like I say, on Friday, that's why I spoke to him, because I wanted him to clarify, and I think a couple of other people might have after us, to clarify that what are these accusations that you're making? Because the whole process was followed through. So you're accusing people of cheating. So it doesn't surprise me that they've responded in that way. It's been a bit of heat on Ben, and as there was in Riyadh, from Frank Warren on stage around the face-offs with Chris Eubank and Camille Zeramata. They clashed there. It's good for Ben Shalom, as I told him privately, or even publicly. I told him on our interview that you're growing. You're in the fire right now. And it's good for you. You'll look back on this period, and he's probably learning an enormous amount at the moment from an old veteran who's been in the sport 50 years. And look what Frank's done. I mean, you know, you, I'm sure Ben deeply respects Frank Warren. You can't not respect him in the industry. What he's done is extraordinary. And obviously, Frank has an entente cordiale with Eddie Hearn at the moment, and they get on incredibly well. As you know, we're around them a lot. They're cooperating at the moment. It may not last forever. It may not be a marriage made in heaven. It might just be an entente cordiale until battle is resumed. But right now, and we certainly know until I don't know if it's officially announced, but is it officially announced 5v5 in February?
Not yet, but I think
Well,
we're going to
we
get
all
it soon.
it's a poorly kept secret. We don't know the card yet. We don't know the signings yet, but we know that they're looking to do something around then, and we probably are going to get another 5v5. His Excellency Turkey Al Sheikh loves it because he loves the rivalry between them both. He's just trying to keep the rivalry going as well as the cooperation. Brilliant, brilliant stuff from him. So Ben Shalom's on a steep learning curve at the moment, but he's also got Riad season having signed up with him as well. So it's a big period for him as well. He's never going to be. There's no book on boxing. There's no PhD in it. You can't get a master's in philosophy in boxing. You have to live the beast. You have to ride the beast for that period of time. And you know, you'd think about how hard. I mean, you've learned more about where Frank's come from and how much Frank's done in his life and what a Trojan he is, and what a warrior he is in many ways to have broken the cartel as it was called way back when, smash a horse and cart through what was a boxing monopoly in the country to build his own channel. Hence, we're talking right now, 10 years old, BoxNation. I think it is 10 years old.
Yeah,
And you're
definitely.
and you're back on it, bringing it to life again, and which would probably end up as another TV station again at some point. So you know, Frank's got a big say in what happens in boxing, and there's a rivalry there right now. And Ben Shalom's probably learnt a lot from this in the last couple of weeks.
Just lastly, the most important thing, Gareth, how busy are you going to be on Wednesday? Can you do a few step-ins at the presser or not?
Well, I didn't know it was official.
Wednesday?
I didn't know it was official on Wednesday. Are we
No.
allowed to say what it is or not?
No, we won't say what
Probably
it
not.
is.
No, I'll see you Wednesday in London. It's a big one. We'll all be there, and I'll do a few step-ins with you on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to it. But I see our step-ins did a few numbers in Riyadh last week, and hopefully we will be working together again very soon.
Well, I think two particular step-ins on Wednesday could go down very well. I won't say any more because I could be giving it away.
Two
Gareth, always,
very big step-ins. Yeah.
exactly. Gareth, always appreciate it and see you Wednesday.
Cheers, brother.